right. Welcome to today's panel, which is starting from zero, about your character starting from zero. Today we have us with Daniel, and I'm not even going to try. I'm sorry. I'm terrible with the names. Ryan Maxwell, Lars Mackmuller. Did I get it
And you
right?
tried mine.
Well, you corrected me last time, so I tried. Mike Norris, and why don't you introduce yourself and we'll go from there. See if we have any questions. Um, Daniel, you want to start first because I mangled yours.
It's okay. Just so you're aware for future reference, my last name, if you break it down, is quite simple. It's Shin Ho Fen. It's the leg bone of a prostitute in a bog. It's very simple. Nobody's gotten it wrong after I've broken it down for them, at least not without trying to. My name is Daniel Shinhofen. I am a dirty, filthy harem writer. It's right there on the screen, so nobody gets surprised or, upset when they read my books. You know ahead of time. You've been warned. It is a multiple partner romance. All of my books, except for one, which did atrociously, and I try not to think about that and cry into my coffee at times. I just published a book yesterday. It was Lux Voice 7, Rail Laid Plans, part of my Weird West lit RPG. And I have many other series. So the idea of starting a character from the very beginning is something I have done quite frequently, and I'm going to look forward to it. I'm actually going to jump the moderator and Ryan. Ryan, no disrespect, just because I want to go down to Lars because us really hard names have to stick together.
Oh yeah. Also, I completely love how you say nobody's gotten your name wrong after you broke their leg. That's how I understood it, at least. That works. I'm totally going home and just researching. Anyways, I'm Lars Mackmüller. I write lit RPG and a bit of game lit, and I've written a Bard lit RPG, World of Chains, Dragon lit RPG, Dragon Core Chronicles, and then Hackers of Arden, a multi-author cyberpunk jig that performed horribly but was super, super fun to write. Next thing I'm going for is a Magic the Gathering inspired fantasy story, thief story, and I love starting from zero and crafting a new world. And then, because I feel sorry for Ryan, I think we should go back up to him.
All right, and I'm Ryan Maxwell. I'm the author of Grand System Vending, currently on Royal Road. I believe as of this morning, I have 45 chapters out and available. A little over, we're just about to hit 32,000 views, so it's doing pretty well so far. Crazy post-apocalyptic adventure with some friends who do nothing but just give each other shit the whole time. So if you like that kind of thing, it'll be right up your alley. I'd love to go read it. Yeah, that's what I'm working on right now. So I guess, Mike, that puts it up to you. And you're still muted.
Yes.
So hi guys, I'm Mike Norris. I am the author of Awoken, as you can see behind me. It is a cultivation fantasy that is actually being published on November 2nd. So we are coming down to crunch time. The audiobook actually released yesterday, so if you guys want to go check that out, you guys can. Unfortunately, as most of everybody knows, it's kind of impossible to do a simultaneous release with that. So there is that. And yeah, I mean, I am also very familiar with starting from scratch, as it's my first novel. And I actually have two main characters in my novel in the series. And so I'm actually kind of like double dipped in this. And so it's going to be a fun panel.
Okay, so we don't currently have any questions, so I'm gonna see if I can throw one out here and see what you guys think. What is your favorite scenario when the character has absolutely nothing on them, like they're butt naked? Let's see. Mike, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, sure, I guess. Because it's funny that you say that because my characters actually do end up butt naked in the Woken, and so it's kind of funny. But they are actually, the scenario is they are actually found by somebody when they awaken, and thankfully that person is very curious about their circumstances of how they came to be where he was, and so he takes pity on them and gives them some clothes and kind of starts talking to them before it starts kind of going downhill. But yeah, I mean, I think the whole trope of somebody awakens in the forest, or somebody just kind of comes out of nowhere and is has nothing but the clothes on their back, and sometimes not even that. It's kind of it kind of sets, I think, the theme of the character has a struggle and he has to overcome it. So it always gives the reader good perspective and kind of like gets them involved and like, hey, I'm rooting for you. Come on, you can do this. And so yeah, I mean that's kind of how I see it, and it's kind of how it comes into play in my book a little bit.
Okay, Daniel, do you want to answer this question as well? Because according to Brian, I should have asked you this question first.
No, I mean, the only reason my characters normally end up buck naked is because they're with a loved one. I haven't started a book with a character completely naked with nothing on them. Honestly, I think if I saw a naked man stumbling out of the woods, I'm not stopping and asking him questions. I'm going the other way. If they look like they were completely confused, they're probably on something, and I'm really going the other way in an awful hurry. So it could just be me being cynical and not wanting to get my face caved in with a rock and then dragged into the woods and eaten by whatever mysterious wanderer this is. But starting a series that way does give you basically only up from there, because you're never as vulnerable as you are when you're naked, and in this case every possible way. So I think it gives you the baseline to start with. I have not yet done so myself. And I just want to call out TJ asking why Ryan didn't shave his head for this panel, to join the rest of us who are more, not follically gifted. And I want to say, Ryan, it's okay. You didn't have to. It's fine. You stay with what you have, sir. Just because the rest of us might have lost it over the years, we're hardly jealous at all.
I mean, even
Hardly
Sharon
at all.
did a little bit to join the rest of us. I mean, I'm with TJ here. Sorry, man.
Hey, look, I changed my little headline and everything just to make sure that everybody was aware. I'm scared of being bald. Pretty sure I've got a lot of lumps underneath here that are not going to look good like some of you guys. So,
Hey, and Lars is missing glasses, so there's that.
So, Ryan or Lars, do you want to eat this question? Or we're going to move on to the next one?
Totally. I mean, I have two of my three main characters. One's a dragon. He's always naked. He's hanging loose. And the other is a bard. And a bard always winds up naked at some point. I mean, if nothing else, then because he fails the role. I mean, that's bard life. So basically, that's just everyday life 101. But apart from that, I do love that, well, we're not just kicking you back to start, we're kicking you a bit further back, and then we'll see how you react. Just like Daniel said, it's seeing how people act when they're really at their most basic and vulnerable. That's fun. Mike?
Mike already answered. Ryan?
Oh, sorry.
I also don't have any characters that start out naked yet. Although I do have to say that I might differ slightly from Daniel in that if I saw somebody wander out of the woods naked, I would say it depends on what they look like first. I might stop beforehand, but
I mean, that's just a thirst trap at that point, Ryan. But that's fine. I will speak at your eulogy. It's totally fine.
Yeah, I would be honored, Daniel, to have you speak at my eulogy. I think I would be totally honored. But
I guess it would also depend on your location. Like, are you in Florida or not? Because
then you run faster.
Yeah, in Florida, I would absolutely not ask questions.
That's a headline just waiting to happen.
Yeah,
Florida man wanders naked out of the wilds, right? So that's totally probably happened already. Oh, sorry to interrupt.
That's fine.
Continue,
But,
Ryan.
I definitely like the aspects of starting from absolutely nothing. It's something that especially in the post-apocalyptic series that I'm writing, I began with. Absolutely. I mean, literally this just average everyday people, all of a sudden every single human being in the world is thrown into this new system, and most of them die. I mean, it's just, that's kind of how it works, is most human beings are not prepared to handle goblins appearing on I-75 and things like that happening all of a sudden. So it's interesting to see what you can build on from those and what kind of human instincts kick in at that point and how different people would react to literally being at a point where there's something who's understands what's going on around you and you have no idea what you're dealing with.
Ryan, since I haven't read your book, I just have a quick question. Since you
Mhm.
referenced goblins on I-75, for instance, does technology still work? And how big is the vehicle I'm in? Because I know exactly what I'm doing depending on how that goes.
All different size vehicles, technology does still work, and what you think does happen. So
See, I mean, okay, then I'm good.
yeah,
That's the great thing about anybody in our space. If anything did happen, it's sort of like how we write. We would be like the ones that survive. We would just be so ready and
Yep.
amped up to do what needs to.
Yeah, it's incredible. I even had the system even creates a special skill for the people who do that called vehicular homicide. So
Nice.
I don't like Royal Road. It has killed one of my computers in the past. But when you do publish to Amazon, sir, I will be buying it.
Okay, I see we have a question from Brian Norden here. How do you all temper expectations of writing an underdog when there is a vast majority of readers expecting an overpowered main character? Is there pressure to ramp up the progress of the MC to retain interest? And do we want to start with Lars here?
Thank you. Yes, definitely. Yes, there is definitely pressure to go overpowered. I went into World of Change, my Bard series, with the clear desire that I want to write an underpowered main character, because at that time, those were very few in number. Sorry. And there were many people going, why doesn't he just do this or this? Because that would totally get him more overpowered. And that was just not the path I want to go. However, what I do in order to keep interest and in order to try to not make people feel like, okay, well, this is boring. I mean, he's the leader of the runt. Why am I even reading this? Is to introduce expectations for him to do well, depending on his low level. I mean, regard what do you call it?
Oh,
Relative to his low level, and set it up for him to learn and cheat the system or game the system in order to become stronger than his relative level later on. So basically, just have him be extraordinary, but have it coming. You can see where he's building himself to become powerful 2, 5, 10, 20 levels later on. Like something like Cradle did so super well, but like a million times better than anything I've done.
oh, so you mean like a roadmap of his?
No,
Yeah,
where you
go.
can glimpse the potential of how the main character is going to become powerful later on, but you can also see that it's going to be a long, hard journey, and there will be a lot of obstacles between here and there.
Okay, Daniel, do you want to take this question?
I mean, I've written a lot of overpowered characters, but they normally start vastly reduced from where they're going to end up being. My two most popular series are that way. And I did get a fan comment about why are these characters not doing so much more. They could if they really want to do. And it's not that's the more overpowered the character gets, the less drama there is for them to fail at some point, depending on what kind of conflicts they're getting into. So getting the slow build for me always works best. I want to see a character slowly building their powers, not just suddenly be like, yeah, I started at level 1, but I just happened to be there when the God of Death got killed, and all of a sudden I'm the most high level character in the game. That it loses a lot for me. But if the character is still well written, and words are hard, folks, take it from me, I use them every day, I will still enjoy that story as long as the character is done well. And I think that's true across everything. But the slow buildup of power, if it's done right, is to me vastly more entertaining than just I'm OP and sliding through everything. But that's me. Ryan, you want to tag in?
Sure. I tend to like to temper those expectations like right out of the gate for people who have that, because there are so many OP MCs out there. It kind of sets up in my mind, it sets up a hero type scenario where it really exposes the plot armor for the MC right off the bat. So sometimes I kind of have like it's hard for me to keep my disbelief suspended when I know that this character is just going to be able to annihilate pretty much anything he comes up against. So it's more entertaining for me to see a character struggle against different adversaries, monsters, situations they find themselves in, to better show that this is how somebody's really going to react to this. Are they going to get things that give them advantages in certain situations? Absolutely. Are they going to have this thing in their bag that probably gets them out of something that they got near the beginning of the book and I forgot to use it, and at the end it helps them out? Also probably. But at the same time, it's more entertaining to find a character that's not just able to kill everything right off the bat, or needs a team of people to help kill things in order to get that done, because that's more realistic to how somebody being put in that situation would end up as well.
Okay, we also have another comment here from also again Brian Norden.
Can we hear Mike? I want to hear Mike say something. He's cool.
Okay. Oh, sorry, Mike. I'm totally stepping here. My
No,
bad.
you're good. Yeah, I mean, all I have to say is, it's kind of a balance. You have a lot of people that really like the OP start, and you have people that like the slow start, right? And then there's also that like middle ground where a character might have an OP skill, but he is, at the bottom of the totem pole for levels or cultivation or whatever or what have you. And I think it just, again, like really, a lot of people only look for one or the other, and sometimes they like to read something that's in the middle. Yes, and that's just the way it goes. But yeah, for me, it's just really a balancing, right? You want to balance a story. The examples that I give for these are like Lars said, Cradle's a great slow build that really ramps up and gets really good later on. And then you have something like System Universe, right, where the character is just OP from the very start and he's just like tearing through everything. Personally, I like the slow start as well. Like Ryan said, I think when you start with the OP character from the very get-go, yeah, you can kind of already see the plot path of what the character is going to go through in them finding somebody that can challenge them, or like a beast or like a dungeon or something like that. It's kind of, you already know that has to happen, or else the story is just going to be like, well, he can just go run over whoever he wants, whatever kingdom or organization or beast, or kind of to me, it just gets a little slower, but still, still good fun sometimes to read those kinds of novels, I think. In Awoken, it's kind of more of a slow start, but they does have a little bit of balance where, they do kind of get a little bit of a nudge and help in certain aspects. But yeah, that's kind of my 2 cents on that.
Okay, and we have another question here from Brian Norden. Can you give an example of limitations you've placed on your characters that haven't been reversed or won't be reversed throughout the series? And why don't we start again here with Mike? Sorry, I'm terrible with names. I really am.
No, that's fine. I'm just rereading that question. It disappeared, I guess. Let me. There it is. Can you give an example of each limitations you've placed on your characters and that haven't been reversed?
Or won't be.
Yeah, I guess limitation on my characters would be knowledge, right? They wake up to this new world where, everything's completely changed and different. They don't know how they got there, and things just seem so fantasy and so crazy that they're kind of at the same time are almost, against it, for lack of a better term. I mean, and I would imagine that would be almost kind of the same thing to us if we, somehow fell asleep and awakened like almost 10,000 years later, and you suddenly see an elf and you're like, what the hell are you doing? Why are you LARPing in the middle of a forest, right? And so to me, something that won't ever change is kind of like their astonishment at things that they see that's just like blows their mind. And kind of like that newfound revelation of things that can be done and things that can't be done with magic, because magic didn't exist, cultivation didn't exist before they woke up. And yeah, just kind of the shock and awe, and being able to try to adapt as much as possible to changing scenarios that they just don't know about.
Lars, do you want to answer this one as well?
Sure. I think my favorite limitation I've put on one of my main characters is also one of the best plot points I've had in my series so far. Because my main character, he's just a bit of a crook. I mean, he went for early retirement and stole a hell of a lot of cash. He worked in a bank and he wanted to retire. I mean, that's how financial workers usually go. But he just stole it from somebody who was a mob boss. So he had to lay low in the game. And the theory was he actually just wanted to hang out in the game, lay low, play as a bard because he was a musician, and then just enjoying himself. And in that game, playing a bard was pretty much like you'd see a bard in like EverQuest, stuff like that, where they're mostly melee fighters. So like this close range DPS, where they'd be like agility and a bit of toughness and then a bunch of charisma. But he just put everything into charisma because he wanted to enjoy himself. I mean, why the hell would he fight? And then it turns out, well, he got made, and they found him in that game, and suddenly he had to make that broken character work with a character build that didn't work according to the game's meta, whatever. And that limitation is never going to go back, and somehow he managed to make that build work for him with a different strategy. And that to me was a limitation that for me turned into a plot point and one of the strongest points for the main character.
Daniel?
I mean, the limitation I put on most of my like overpowered characters is very simple: morality. If you're overpowered and you can do anything, what stops you from being the evil overlord yourself? And that's just morality. Most of my overpowered characters just want a quiet family life, and that's all they want. And the only reason they ever get into trouble is someone else brings trouble to them. That's a limitation that I'll probably never get away from most of my series. I do have a couple of series where the main character is not the most morally responsible individual in the world. I also have not made them a god of magic for many reasons. So that's one I can point to right away without a problem. The other limitations you can deal with are, like Lars said, where he had a guy who had a lot of money and wanted to lay low. You can go the other way. Somebody who just never seems to hold on to their money, is constantly taken advantage of, is always helping out a friend and never has what they need when they need it themselves. There are a million limitations you could put on a character, and as long as you stick with them and make them work for the story, it works. But I will always find something. Normally, like for Aethers, my most popular series, Aether's Revival, that character is the god of magic reborn, but he has to grow into those powers. So he is making sure he takes his time and has his own self limitations, because if he gets caught out before he gets enough power, then he's just going to get squished by people who have more power right now. So you can make limitations work, and they can stick around for a very long time or the entire series, depending on how you want to do it. What do you think, Ryan?
Yeah, Ryan?
Yeah, I agree with Daniel. Morality is kind of a big point that I've put on some of my characters, as well as in some of the situations that they're put up against. Not only is morality an issue, but other people's morality becomes an issue in the apocalypse. So you have situations where people are literally warring against each other for supplies or for items that are in, or for space that they want to claim as their own, and the heroes can't get involved in some of those fights because one side is just going to lie to you about what they're fighting for, and the other side really needs your help, and you have no idea who to help. So sometimes you just can't help anybody because you're stuck not only in your own moral conundrum, but other people's moral conundrums of just trying to get the upper hand. And then I think the biggest limitation that my characters have, being all humans from Earth, is their size. Their size is definitely a limiting factor because they come up against some pretty big monsters that just by default have really thick skin or hard exoskeletons or something like that. And they're not really Superman. I mean, they don't have laser vision to cut through it or super strength to punch through it. So they're having to find creative ways to attack these things, kind of like ants at a picnic, is what it really boils down to. And figuring out how to deal with that. So that's obviously not something that's going to change anytime soon because it's a trait of their race. But the monsters are getting bigger and bigger because the more mana that builds up in the area, the more the larger the creatures and more difficult they are that it summons because of that ambient mana buildup.
Basically, it's kind of like the island effect, but for mana.
Yep.
But that's again also an example of a limitation that in the long run will turn into a strong point for your characters because they will be forced to, well, adapt, overcome, and so forth.
Okay, we have a question from James Smith. As you deal with time progression and power leveling, can I ask how long Sean has been in the world of Binding Words?
That's not a great question because that's targeted specifically at me. So
I was gonna ask for a while or something.
Yeah, so I James is on my Discord. He can ask on my Discord. We can move on to a question for
okay. I
all of
didn't.
us can handle.
I didn't understand that. So excuse me. We have a question from NeMCA. What is your favorite character race that you have developed from scratch? And I see a couple of nods here. We want to start with Daniel first?
I'll let one of them take it first. I got to think this one over.
Okay. Mike, you were nodding. You want to go for this one first?
Yeah, I haven't really created anybody from scratch. I guess, like I said, there's several races in the Primal Age universe that are going to be introduced more heavily, starting book 2. But I really take more, the races that I developed they come from humanities like myths, right? Like elves, dwarves, giants, lizard men, and then later on, all the dark kind of beasts and other races that kind of permeate our myths and ethos. I'll be bringing those in as well, kind of as an underground race. So there's those, right, and just kind of weaving them in a different format. Like elves, instead of being like very woodland creatures and really masters of the forest, they're actually masters of the sea. Because in a lot of legends in humanity, actually elves were great shipbuilders and navigators, and they fared the seas and all that kind of stuff. So just kind of that, and kind of taking a spin from the myths and legends of humanity, I think is something that I'm pretty proud of doing it, and I haven't seen it done as much.
Ryan, would you like to take this question?
Sure. You're not going to see any of it in my current writing that I have on Royal Road because everybody's human. So maybe monsters. I don't want to give any spoilers because it's, in my opinion, it was a hilarious moment. If you get to my chapter 37, I will say there's a very large nod to Alaron Kong in that particular chapter. If anybody reads his books, you'll know what I'm talking about a little bit. As a monster that I created. But I do have a secondary series that I've kind of put off for now because it wasn't coming out well. But I did create a whole new race in there called Orthics that are kind of a bluish, grayish skinned, almost pig-nosed people who have a very adept use of magic because they're not physically strong. They had, over whatever period of existence they come from, evolved to be better at using magic and more sensitive to the mana around them. So it was fun to come up with some of those things. And then a lot of the other ones, I'm similar to Mike, that I've taken some ideas of elves and dwarves and gnomes and things from other workings. And I think my absolute favorite one though was from a series I'm writing with a friend of mine. I've been writing it for a few years now. It's not ready for anybody to see yet because we're both working on it together, and I don't want to do anything without him. But we've taken a race we ended up calling Mastodonians because we were scared that Wizards of the Coast owns the name Loxodon, and it's an elephant people that's like half man, half elephant, and they're like 8 feet tall and like 2,000 pounds, and they're just super OP characters. But it's a really fun play on the typical dumb barbarian style creature, and he's absolutely hilarious to follow through there. And he was a lot of fun to write because he doesn't really know how strong he is, and he believes he's a rogue. So he's this giant creature who believes he just yells sneak attack when he runs up on people, and everybody's too scared to tell him that he's not really that sneaky.
Okay. Lars?
Yeah, that was beautiful. I love that. My absolute favorite race I've created from scratch are called the Talpi. They are a dungeon or an underground race of a mix of mole men and wolves. So basically they're bipedal, but they're not super tall. They're soft-skinned. They have a long snout, so they have good noses, but they are they're super weak. And
I love them.
Everybody basically just uses them as, well, disposable fighters at best, but usually just slaves or food. And taking this tiny, underpowered, weak-ass race and then over 6 books, building them into a fighting force where they discover their earth magic and really using their senses to the utmost, that has been an absolutely fucking enjoyable journey. So they're my absolute favorite, and I have so enjoyed killing off some of the loveliest examples of that race along the way, because that's how I am.
I can honestly say I haven't built anything from scratch. I have taken 90% of every myth I've come across and twisted it to my own ends, but building one completely from scratch, I have not done.
Yeah, I mean, there's always an element of stealing and adapting and abusing. Yeah.
Okay. We have a question here from Kyle Wilkinson. When creating a 0-level character, do you prefer to write them as a monster MC, or does making them human make the build up more thematic? And okay, we're gonna try again, Daniel. You have want to take this question?
You must like to be disappointed in life if you keep coming to me first. I am probably not the person you should come to first, but okay. I use base human for most of my characters. It's more relatable to the readers. If they're human, you know exactly what you're getting because we're all human. The few times I have deviated away from that, they've normally been dwarven of some type because if you see me, you would understand. But monster characters, unless it's a human thrown into a monster body, I always feel that monster characters are harder to do. They should have a completely different mindset than the average human, unless it's a consciousness thrown into that body. I would not expect a werewolf, a vampire, a kitsune to think along the same lines as you or me. So it would be harder for me to write. I know other writers can do it, and I found them fabulous. But me myself, I prefer to have that very, very relatable start to draw people in a little bit easier to my stories.
Okay, Mike?
Yeah, I agree with Daniel. I think, the more relatable, the better. I mean, there are some fantastic novels that have, monster or hybrid MCs. But for Awoken, I am also based human for my 2 main characters. And obviously, most of the other races on Earth are humanoid, just because of, kind of we take into account, evolution and all that kind of stuff, and trying to bring some realism into how things develop on Earth. It just follows along that path. But of course, there's monsters that, are derived from, beasts that, evolve and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, for most for most part, I do most humanoid, human-based characters as well.
Obviously, Lars, this is probably a good question for you.
Yeah, well, it's an easy one to answer as well because I agree with Daniel. That's it. I mean, no, seriously, you need to do isekai in order to throw people into a place where they can understand a monster MC probably. Otherwise, I mean, if you take some of the monster MC or people or series where the main races are non-human in fantasy, dark fantasy in general, you will see that they either have done it super well, or the few examples where they actually have, they spend a shitload of time exploring the worlds, exploring their myths, their mindsets, and so on. And apart from our stories, we already have a system in Lit RPG that we need to explain and explore. And unless we want to go full on just heavy on explanations and just throw it out there and not get a chance to develop the story right, yeah, that's gonna be super front loaded. So isekai or humanoid ish.
Brian?
So I think this is a difficult question to consider in that, as Daniel pointed out originally, it's harder for people to relate to non-human characters because we're all human characters. So even the times where you see other races used, and nobody, I don't think I've never read one that does it just badly, that wasn't just an overall bad book, but all the ones I've read do it well, but they still are human qualities to something. And to change your MC from a human to an orc is going to change your writing style for that book, because you have to map out how your character would react in all these situations based on how an orc would do everything. So it's absolutely going to depend on the story, but most people end up using a human as their character because it literally, I mean, you literally going to have to map out every different interaction and how that would relate to that different race than a human does.
Yeah, and even sorry for interrupting, but even orcs, elves, and dwarves, whatever, those are humanoid, relatable. We have all these tales where we can already relate to them. If you go monster MC, you start from scratch. And that's super tough.
Yeah, it's like you have a huge barrier like language, right? Or like, what if the monster, MC doesn't even have a mouth? How do you communicate telepathically? Like, there's just so many obstacles and barriers that you have to overcome through, storytelling, like Lars said. Sorry, Ryan.
That's fine. All I was going to say was somebody who does do it, I think, really well is the story Everybody Loves Large Chests. They did a really, really good job of leaning into the mimic as an MC. But you can definitely tell based on some of the feedback that I've read online about the story, if you look on the Amazon reviews, that it's definitely kind of bipolar on people love it or hate it, because he's writing from the standpoint of something whose entire goal in life is to eat whatever is in front of him. So it's a completely different mindset to have to write from in that aspect.
Okay, then. Oh, very good answers. We have another question from Doug. What would you say is your most regrettable decision you have made in a world you have built that you would go back and change if you could go back and do it over? And I'm not picking Daniel this time. Lars, would you like to talk, or maybe Nike?
I think I'll mull it over for a bit if you don't mind.
Okay, Mike?
Yeah, I think I'll mull it over as well.
Ryan? Don't go alone here.
Current series, I don't have any regrets yet. So I've been this story, I've really taken a lot of people's advice on write what you want this time. So it's literally just, I'm writing what I want, fuck everybody else for now. And I don't care what you say. So I have no regrets on what I've done now. But in the past, I've written other things that I've gone back and I've gone, I really wasn't. I think the biggest regret I ever have is just not writing for myself. So I built a world almost completely around something that I thought a certain group of people were going to want to read. this is something that's going to happen here. I kept it cleaner because, my mom was like, I'll read the book when you're done, and immediately go, oh shit. So I was like, I need to, I think that was my biggest regret in building that whole world, was it wasn't as down and dirty and me as it should have been. And this new world, you much more fully get a terrifying glimpse into my mind and how it works. So I don't have, again, with the one I'm writing right now, I don't have any regrets yet. I'm not saying it's never going to happen, but we're still on book 1, so we'll see what happens later on.
I'll go ahead and jump in. And Ryan, when the book does publish, I totally want a glimpse into your mind. So make sure to specifically tell me, so I can get on that, because I think that'll be fun. For things I regret, nothing system-wise I can think of. Character choices, yeah, there's a few. There are a few. However, as an after-action reporter, as I call myself, instead of a pantser or a discovery writer, I don't have a whole lot of choice in what I am told my characters have done. Sometimes I do want to slap them about the head, necks, and shoulders with a clue by 4. There has only been one time where I have fixed a problem my characters have done, and that was when I rewrote an entire book. And that was Apocalypse Gates. The main character is supposed to be an asshole, and I wrote it the first time, and the main character decided by the end of it he was going to be like a quasi-paladin. And I said, no, you get back in the box, you learn to be an asshole, and we'll try this again. And the rest of the series then proceeded with my main character the way he was supposed to be, as an asshole who finally learns how to get along with others, kind of. So I have those moments. The only other thing that I can say that I can point to out of all my series and slap my face over repeatedly is Sean allowing himself to life bond all of the staff in Binding Words. Dude, what the fuck? And if I had caught it at the time, I would have stopped him and said, no. We're going to go back, and you're going to tell me what your life is like without them as life bonded to you, dumb fuck. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. So, yeah, Binding Words ending is going to be a bit more full of love than I had considered originally. Well, we'll hand that off to Lars or Mike now.
Just to at least say this real quick, I am so happy that you have said that, Daniel, because I really am glad now that I'm not the only one who gets into the chapter and goes, why the fuck did you do that? And I'm not even talking to me, I'm talking to the character that I just wrote.
Lars, you want to go?
Oh yeah. Okay, there are 2 decisions I've come up with. One of them was back when I first wrote World of Chains on Royal Road, and it was doing really well on Rising Stars back in the day, and I messed up. I just wrote something that went off in the direction that full stop didn't work. I wrote 30,000 words, put them up there, and people just said, what the hell is going on? And I took 2 weeks, really thought about it, almost had a breakdown. And then I decided to scrap the entire 30,000 words and just start over and go in a different direction. I don't regret the decision I made at all, but I fucking regret writing those in the first place, because damn, that went from just shooting towards the stratosphere to just taking a nosedive. That, and then I do somewhat regret adding a deity system in the World of Chains, because I have a lot. I mean, it's pretty crunchy already, and I haven't used it as much as I would have liked to, because there are also a lot of different other systems. So I mean, I would love to play around with it more, but with everything else that's happening, I haven't been able to give it the full attention that I really want to. I mean, I actually wanted to write an entire fucking book just exploring that deity system and the system where you'd be able to build a chronicler who does nothing else but just play Indiana Jones and get deity points for discovering old knowledge, figuring out secrets, and finding lost treasures and stuff like that. But I haven't been able to. So yeah, I might actually have cut it entirely if I were to start from the beginning.
Yeah, for me, I think I don't have any regrets story wise or system wise in my book. My only regret is not having made it longer. I mean, it's still well over 100,000 words, but I still feel that I should have made it a little bit longer. So book number 2, I'm already working on it, and it's going to be probably at least twice as as long as Awoken. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay. We have a question from Kyle Wilkinson. If you had an older human and they are isekai'd to a new world as a level 0 young MC, how would you handle building them once more, having to grow up again? And not starting with Daniel. We're making that a meme. Ryan, it's been a while since you've gone first.
Sure. I've thought about this before, and I'm pretty sure what I would end up doing is having them immediately go into a bunch of life or death situations, simply because they had this young body and they ran off and they were like, oh, I can do all the things I couldn't do anymore. Running through the woods, jumping off of buildings, climbing trees, all the things they are, and have them come into some near-death experiences before they finally realize, oh shit, I probably shouldn't do this. Or it depends on how young we make them. I mean, if they come back as like a child, obviously the playthings, but if they came back as like a 20-something-year-old man, then it would be one of those, I'm going to go off and do all the adventuring things I couldn't do before, until they realize that they're in a new place where they cannot do the things they were doing on Earth before, since they were isekai'd into that new world. So it'd be fun to begin by having them explore that whole rejuvenation aspect of their bodies, and feeling a certain way, because we all know when you hit a certain age, the check engine light comes on and it just stays on. It does not go back off. So having him give the ability to run free and do some of those things, and specifically introduce aspects of danger that they continuously get themselves into because they're trying to live their life in a way they may not have the first time, because we all can admit there were things we wish we had done when we were younger that we aren't able to do now.
I would actually probably take that the other way, Ryan. I would probably take that to be the person who understands what it's like to be older in life and not have things and know what slow decline of comfort and care and everything else is, and use their knowledge to amass their wealth and quality people around them, so that as they do get older, then they have care and love and comfort. Because all of us, as we grow older, I'm not going to say my age at this point, but waking up in the morning where body joints hurt for no reason other than you slept, apparently. I can see where somebody in this kind of world, especially where there's magic, would be like, okay, I want to make sure that like 40 years of what I just went through doesn't happen again. And I know that happens because I did stupid shit like running off and fighting terrible things and getting into wars, and then I'm broken and I have no money. Let's not do that this time. I see. For me, I think both of us could duel back and forth on let's go run off, or no, let's not.
I think that would be like a great merchant lit RPG,
It sounds like a co-author lit RPG there, Daniel, that we're gonna have to do with 2 old men who get brought back in time, and each one is wanting to do their own thing.
Well, you better make them friends, because otherwise my merchant is just going to amass wealth and then, get you kidnapped and be like, see? And this is why.
I would totally read that. Oh. Oh.
Yeah, well, for me, that is basically my Dragon Core Chronicles. I mean, that is Life 2.0. I got another chance, and this time I'm doing it right. I'm picking good friends. I am actually doing what my heart says. I'm not wasting my time working for money or other shit that isn't that important. Also, I would never write a story where they start too young. I've read it a couple of times. I've read it pretty well done once. I can't remember what it's called, unfortunately, but it is super hard, and it also has them going through a lot of physical and emotional changes that basically I don't want to progress through. I mean, don't want to see a story going that way.
Yeah, start them at like 18. They're adults. They can do what they need to do, and you don't have to deal too much with the oh god puberty all over again.
Yeah.
Exactly. I have 3 kids between 6 and 8 in the house right now. I don't want to write that.
Yeah, for me, I think it'd be cool to see an old person being, isekai into an old body, into a still an old body, and as he progresses, he's granted more like youth, and he's, so that's kind of like his driving factor as he's progressing, and still, as he's trying to fight a monster, he slips a disc and he falls back, and that's how he avoids a claw to the face or something. And he's just a grumpy old man that he's been forced to do this, and sometimes he's just like, why don't I just sit down and die? But I think that'd be cool. As he progresses, maybe he gets younger, and that's like a goddess or something is granting him that as he does feats worthy of an old man. And maybe he finds some young companions that he kind of scolds into being smart and not stupid adventurers, and he's splitting the party. He's like, no, screw that, we're gonna stick together. So I think that'd be kind of fun.
Okay, we have time for one last question here.
Yeah, can I just use 10
Sure.
seconds? Because Brian was entirely right. Anybody here should read trailer trash, and they shouldn't read the description either, because they won't like it from that. The story is absolutely amazing, and it's not something you'd write if you read the blurb. Read if you read the blurb.
So you would,
Who is
you
it
would
by?
actually tell the author then, hey, go back and rewrite your blurb so you get more reads.
No, because the blurb describes exactly what it is, but it's just done so goddamn well that you read it anyway and you'll fucking love it.
Who's the author of that? Do we know?
It's on Railroad, but it's also out on Amazon. So trailer trash, you'll find it.
Maybe Geneva can pop that up for us if you, have time. Again, we have a question from Brian Norden here. With the topic of the panel being around characters starting from nothing, do you any of you have ideas floating around for a fun concept that you'd like to someday explore that you might be willing to share as teasers for future projects?
I'm going to jump in just ahead, just to screw with everything that we've already discussed about me not answering things first, because I like to be contrary. And Brian, yes, I do have some ideas, and no, I'm not telling you. And I'll go ahead and pass that along to Ryan.
Such a mess. I love it.
Yeah, I have the only other one that I'm looking at right now is I have the older series I referenced earlier that I've been working on with a friend of mine. We call it fantasy isekai trash lit RPG lit RPG land. So it literally spells out F it all as the title of the series, and it's a man who gets isekai'd from the real world into this other fantasy world, and he meets up with the rogue, who is super sneaky but not sneaky, along with another character that we literally have called Tulkin, so that when we write ourselves into corners, we can just his actual power is that he blacks out when he sees blood, and everybody around him is dead when he wakes up. So they get out of situations Tulkin style, and but he's this really upstanding kind of guy, and they go through this system, and the main character is a summoner class, but he got glitched with a level 100 summoning class, so he summons these like way overpowered creatures who then try to fight each other sometimes on accident, because they're jealous of everybody else's power around them. So if he summons more than one of them, they get into like a wrestling match, and it's hilarity ensues as Rocky's the name of the main character is trying to get home and find his way back to see if any of the wizards will help them do it. And a lot of the characters have it's literally just the whole idea of the story is to make fun of every possible trope in lit RPG or in the isekai world. The people who are They think they're barbarians, but in reality, he's just his class is farmer. So it's this really old, weak guy walking around yelling and screaming while swinging a shovel at people. It's absolutely hilarious, some of the things that happen in there. But that's really the only thing I have going right now that I'm looking into writing out as well, or finishing writing out. I think we have like 75,000 words into it so far. So, Lars, I guess I'll pass it to you then.
Yes, that would be great.
Did you say me?
Yes.
I
Sorry,
don't hear anybody.
sorry, I missed that. I have one I'm sitting on, and I don't know if I'm ever going to write it, because I love my underdogs, and this would definitely not be an underdog style of story. But I kind of would like the idea of taking somebody who's just through and through a bad person, like a gang leader who's just mid.
Full on
beating
mustache
up-
twirling.
Excuse me.
Full on mustache twirling evil.
No. Just regular old leather pants, leather suit, knuckles filled with blood, and just
80s hair
snorting.
metal singer. leather
Yeah,
pants.
exactly. And this dude just getting isekai'd, and for sheer karma being isekai'd as a god of peace, which would be the title.
That's awesome.
And of course, the God of Peace would be a resurrected title, and he would be like everybody else would be after him and wanting to just take over, and he'd have to defend himself from them, but he would be unable to actually use violence to solve his problems due to the limitations put upon him by his position. So just another situation of being forced to scrabble and finding unusual situations, unusual solutions to their problems. That could be fun, I think.
I would totally read that. That sounds awesome. For me, I think I would. It's something that I'm actually currently working on the back burner of the Primal Age series, but it's about kind of the TV show Expanse. Kind of turning that into a lit RPG isekai kind of thing, where the character is also a very bad man who's gone through. He's a career criminal, kind of on the military side, kind of like the Martians. They're pretty bad people, and his jump drive suddenly malfunctions, and he gets blasted out into a whole different universe on accident. And this universe is has a lot more like magic and aspects like that, and so he goes through it, tries to be a bad guy there, but he finds out that there's a lot bigger bad guys than he is, so he actually becomes a good guy, and he's trying to find his way back to what he used to do. So kind of that aspect of it, and space and the space aspect of it. So I think it'd be pretty fun.
Okay, so we are running very low on time. So why don't you go around and tell us where they can find you, what projects you have coming up, that sort of thing. And the plot twist, Daniel.
You just woke me up.
Hello?
Oh, you want me to start? I thought you were just saying Daniel to make me actually look up again. I'm sorry. I had flashbacks to being in school all over again. Man, that's been a long time.
Are you paying attention, Daniel?
Yeah, totally, Teach. Don't worry about it. You can go on. I'll ace the test. It's not like it's hard. Where was I? Oh, things. I just published a book that was Luxboy 7 Rail-Aid Plans. That's up on Amazon now. All my stuff can be found on Amazon if you can learn how to type the really long Germanic name. Otherwise, I'm sure Geneva will probably throw a link up again because she's amazing that way. The next book that I publish will not be until right at the end of the year, and that will be the last book in the Binding Words series. That'll be book 11, and it will wrap my longest running series to this point. Other than that, I've had a lot of fun, just being me and screwing with various people. But we'll ask Ryan. Ryan, did you have fun? And where can we find more of your stuff?
I did have fun. I always have fun with you guys. I am, again, publisher or the author of Grand System Vending on Royal Road right now. And I do have a Patreon that I've started up. It's still in its infancy. It's only a few weeks old, but I'm putting out 3 chapters ahead of time from what's on Royal Road out on the Patreon at any given time. has only 2 levels right now, or 3 levels right now, free $1 because you love me, and $2 and $5 for the advanced chapters. So go check those out. Again, we're literally about to hit 32,000 views today on on the story, so it's going really well. I guess I'll pass it off to Lars.
Well, I am doing what Daniel does because that sounds like an excellent idea. I am finishing off my longest running series, Dragon Chronicles, and I'll also do it hopefully end this year, maybe in January. We'll see how it goes. Then I am going off into a deck builder, and I've played a lot of Magic the Gathering lately, so I really look forward to
Oh, I used to play that.
that. Mike?
Awesome. Yeah, as you guys can see behind me, my first novel, Awoken, book 1 of the Primal Age series, is coming out November 2nd. The audiobook is actually out, so you guys can go pick that up on Audible. And yeah, I would really appreciate if you guys go out and pick up the book. Let me know what you guys think. I am running my first author contest, which is whoever drops the best Amazon review. It doesn't matter if it's a 1-star or a 5-star, just let me know, and whatever I think is the coolest one, I'll actually write you into a character in my next into the series. So that'll be pretty cool. And yeah, thanks. Had a ton of fun. It's awesome seeing you guys and talking about what we love to write about.
Same, man.
All right, everybody do the awkward wave.